The time is drawing nearer for the floodgates to open on the new generic top-level domain names. Despite ICANN's technical glitches earlier this year, the corporation is set to begin revealing the applications for the nearly 2,000 new domain-ending hopefuls this week. And one company that is banking on the success of all these new domains is Donuts Incorporated. The company recently raised more than $100 million in funding to expand the domain space with the 307 new gTLDs it has applied for. Donuts believes it can bring both variety and choice to internet naming. So to find out how the company plans to do this, we're going to bring in Mason Cole, Donuts Vice President of Communications and Industry Relations. Thanks for joining us today, Mason.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Well, first of all, just help us understand really what it is that Donuts Incorporated does and what it's trying to do.
Sure. So Donuts is organizing to be a domain name registry, meaning our responsibility for secured top-level domains that we're able to secure, will be to run the authoritative database of second-level registrations in those names. So, for example, now if you had pizza.com, there's only one authority who is responsible for making sure there's not a duplicate of pizza.com, and that's the domain name registry. So that's the role that we'll fill in this ecosystem, and we will provision those names to domain name registrars who will make them available to the public.
All right, so why does Donuts believe that this gTLD expansion is so necessary?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, if you look at the existing namespace, there are only 22 existing generic top-level domains. There are hundreds of country code TLDs, like .jp for Japan and so on. But in the generic namespace, it's awfully constrained. It's very hard to find a good internet identity that a company or a person or a family or a new product or a cause of some kind can use to identify themselves and promote their interests on the web. So we're overdue for namespace expansion, and this is a real opportunity to do it.
So let's get into the specific benefits that Donuts sees this bringing to both businesses and consumers.
Sure. Well, if you're a business and let's say that you're in the theater business and you're in New York and you want to promote your services to secure theater tickets, would it be better to have a domain name that says get your NYCTIX here.com, or would it be better to have theater.tickets? It's much more intuitive for a business to have a domain name with specificity that describes exactly what it is they're trying to do than it would be to try to jam together some kind of identity in an overcrowded namespace. For individuals, really, the benefits are much the same. There are going to be new opportunities for self-expression, for promoting causes that are important to you, just for having a presence in cyberspace around the world.
Very interesting. Well, as I said, Donuts has raised more than $100 million in funding to make these new gTLDs a reality. So can you tell us a little bit about this capital and who is behind it?
Sure. We have several institutions that are backing us. Our lead investor is Austin Ventures. We have several other institutions and a network as well of a couple of angel investors. So we've been very fortunate. We have good access to capital. We have additional access to capital if that were to become necessary. But we've resourced this company in a way that we believe will help us secure every applied for TLD if we decide to do so.
Very interesting. Well, as exciting as this is, this influx of nearly 2,000 new domain endings at one time will bring a lot of challenges. So what do you have to say about how Donuts really plans to deal with these?
Yeah, well, the good news is ICANN, which is the industry regulator that we cooperate with to bring new TLDs into existence, did a great deal of study before they opened this new TLD program, and they determined that there's plenty of capacity in the internet root system to make sure that the introduction of new TLDs wouldn't pose any stability or security concern of any kind. So the infrastructure of the internet itself is ready to absorb TLDs. So we're going into this process without any real fear that we're going to have a problem with breaking the internet. As far as what Donuts has done, we will run exceptionally clean registries, both in terms of operations and in tools to make sure that abuses, if they're discovered, are rooted out quickly and easily. And beyond that, our real objective is bringing these to market as soon as we can.
All right, then. Well, I'm sure that you're aware that the advertising community has been very vocal about its opposition of the gTLD expansion, really claiming that it would be harmful to brands and make them more susceptible to attacks, as you said. So what do you say to their continuing claims of this?
Yeah, well, we're certainly aware of their claims. I don't know that I would agree that it's going to be the burden that they claim it is. The advertising and content, intellectual property industries were all heavy participants in the new TLD development process. They've certainly had a voice in this. There are protections that have been put into place for rights holders in the new TLD space that will make it far more secure than the space that exists in .com, .net, .info, etc. In fact, we believe it's important that the existing namespace adopt those additional protections to make it even across the board. So I don't know that I would agree that it's as terrible as they say it's going to be. In fact, by all accounts, it's going to be a clean web space or a clean namespace that's going to have far fewer problems than the existing namespace.
Well, what about the intellectual property rights? We actually spoke with an analyst a couple months ago who predicted that trademark lawsuits could potentially happen once these new gTLDs are released.
Well, I hope not. I mean, that would be unfortunate if things came to that. I mean, as I've said, there's all sorts of protections. I mean, Donuts is going to put in all kinds of new protections into its TLDs that hopefully will guard against issues that may be experienced by rights protections or by rights holders. The idea, I think, that you could use a process to establish the validity of of a registrant before a name is given to that registrant is not the way to go about opening the internet, right? We would rather deal with a problem after it exists and not base entrance into our TLDs on your identity. So, I hope it doesn't resort to legal action. I'm fairly confident that in most cases it won't, because there's sufficient protection in place.
Does Donuts have any reservations about ICANN after the technical issues that it experienced earlier this year?
Yeah, no, we don't. No, ICANN is a capable administrator of the domain name system. We partner heavily with ICANN. There's really no concern there.
All right, so how do you expect consumers to react to really this new way of thinking about the internet? Do you think that there will be any hesitancy in visiting these new sites?
Well, I hope not. The whole purpose here is to bring specificity to internet identities that just isn't available right now. So, as I've said, if you're having trouble finding a .com name or a .net or .info or what have you name, these new options should bring opportunity that you just can't find in existing namespace. So, there will be a period of adjustment where people change their browsing habits and get used to the idea that there are new extensions in the root. And that's fine. I mean, you can't evolve things without a period of adaptation, but over time it'll be extremely valuable.
And how big of an impact do you think that this will have on the entire web going forward?
Well, it's the biggest expansion that you've seen of internet naming ever. In 2000 and in 2004, there were smaller rounds of new TLDs introduced, but nothing on this scale. So this is a significant chapter in the evolution of the internet.
Yeah, it's definitely big. Well, I know that you can't tell us what specific domain endings that Donuts applied for, but can you give us an idea for what types of industries that the new endings will cover, or is it just really widespread?
It's pretty widespread. I mean, what I can tell you, there are three general categories of internet names. There's generics, just plain words that you'd find in the dictionary. Geographic names like .Paris or .Africa, for example, and then there are brand names. Perhaps IBM is going to apply for .IBM. That's an example. All of Donuts applications are generics. Everything is a dictionary word. We will have a few in there that are in what's called non-Latin or non-ASCII script, right? Meaning the words are the letters used to form the English language. So a few will be in different language scripts, and you're right. I'm sorry. That's about all I can tell you about what we're applying for.
I understand that, and you're pretty confident that these gTLDs will be approved by ICANN?
Well, yes, we are. It's a long evaluation process. The criteria under which evaluations will be made are straightforward and understandable, and we're very confident that Donuts is prepared for all of them.
All right, and I have to ask, where did the name Donuts come from?
Sure. Well, who doesn't like a donut, right?
It's true.
Yeah. But really, the name evokes the idea of choice and variety. And when you go into a donut shop, you see all kinds of different flavors and varieties, and choice and new opportunities are what we wanted to bring to the internet. And it was a good match for the name.
It's a good way to look at it. Well, we look forward to the reveal day and seeing all the new domain endings. Thank you so much for talking with us, Mason.
Thanks for having us.
You're very welcome, and ICANN is scheduled to reveal the applicants' names on June 13th. I'm Abby Johnson with this report.